Well, my planting sessions yesterday inspired me. I was thinking about this end of the bed, and I was thinking about the fact that I now had some odd spots in it. Here particularly, because this is actually onion here. And then here, and maybe even some places behind me that are empty. Now I'm going to have to be watering this and watching this on a regular basis anyway. So it just seemed like a natural solution to go ahead and plant something here. So, last year I had tried to plant parsnips over here, and I did have a few come up, but in the mass let's eat everything in the bed festival that we had early in the spring, most of them were eaten. I do have one less little parsnip that's come up over there now, but that's not exactly going to make a meal. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and try growing parsnips again. Parsnips take 2 to 3 weeks to germinate, which means I have to keep that soil moist for the entire time. And that's much easier said than done around here. So this says I should plant a 2-inch wide band, about a ½ inch deep, and I'm going to give it a try again. If you've never eaten parsnips, they look like a white carrot. Another hard thing about them is that they need carrot quality soil. In other words, it needs to be deep and fairly loose. This end of the bed here has been completely rebuilt in the last year or so. It's had a lot of humus put in it and all that sort of thing. So it is loose and easy to manipulate. But they also are a very long plant. In other words, long in terms of the amount of time it takes to grow them. So these will be best harvested this fall after the first frost. They can't even be overwintered. I have done it before. They don't, I guess they did hold about as well as my carrots do. So, you know, if I can get them in and get them growing now, sure, I'd be willing to hold them over this fall. We don't have a root cellar, so it makes it, or a basement, so it makes it a nice thing to be able to just sort of leave plants in the ground until you're ready to use them. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and get these. I sort of decided I was going to try and see if I could plant the entire batch, but I see I have like 1 million of them in here. So we'll see. I may actually go crazy and try and plant as many as I can anyway. I'm going to plant these in a band, just like they suggest, which means I could plant one and one, and then one in the middle, so that they're all far enough apart. My assumption is these seeds are slightly older, so they may not germinate as well. We're already starting to see quite the collection of bugs this spring, which is not a particularly hopeful thing, and I don't like not knowing what things are. It's always, we sort of think of it as forewarned, forearmed, that sort of thing. If we know what they are, then we know what our sources of issues might be. So there we go, there's that section. Parsnips used to be a much more common plant years ago. I think the fact that carrots are so much faster is probably one of the reasons that parsnips became more popular. They do taste similar, although not exactly the same. I was reading about some medieval vegetables that we don't eat anymore, or very rarely do we eat them, and you certainly couldn't buy them commercially. There's another plant called skirret that also resembles, it's a root vegetable, it also resembles carrots and parsnip, but it grows off of crowns the same way asparagus does. And I actually have some seeds from a friend, but I'm thinking about it. I just need to decide where I'd put them, because that's a perennial. And skirret was actually replaced as a vegetable by potatoes. Prior to the introduction of potatoes to Europe, because of course potatoes came from South America, prior to the introduction of potatoes to Europe, skirret was the same sort of basic survival food that potatoes became. But they take a lot longer, and they're not as productive, but It sounds like they taste pretty good, so we're not trying to save the world here, we're just trying to grow a garden. So since it wouldn't be a survival situation, I think it might be kind of interesting to try them and see what we think of them. Okay, well, I think what I'll probably do is try and find someplace else, maybe in another section of this bed, because I've got a ton of these seeds, and I really do want to see if I can get parsnips reestablished in my garden. I used to really enjoy them. Henry likes them too. We've tried buying some at the grocery store, and mostly they've been pretty not wonderful. They fresh, they're wonderful, and semi-dried out and left over. We always say that vegetables and fruit sometimes look like it's been rolled from the fields. And unfortunately, the last batch we had was really strong, which is unusual. So I have to assume that it just wasn't stored quite right. So hopefully this will inspire you to try something unusual. Purple carrots, white carrots, they come in all different colors. Parsnips are not carrots, but they are sort of related, I think. And they're an interesting plant. In case anyone wonders why I water using a watering can, first of all, I enjoy it. Second of all, it lets me get up close and personal. And third of all, this water's free. Because this is all from a cattle tank that collects water off the studio roof. So I'm not paying for this water yet. So at the beginning of the season and any time in between when we have enough rain in the cattle tank, I often will water things by hand because I don't have to pay for that water. And the water that's in the cattle tank is less alkaline than the water that comes from the wells in town. So I figure it's a double bonus. You're putting less alkaline water on the soil, and the water didn't cost me anything. Hopefully this will inspire you to try something unusual. See you next time. Bye.